Yo!
Hello, Sean.
Yo.
That was annoying.
Yeah, that was annoying.
That was a little too much.
That was aggressive.
Welcome back, Fire Tribe. Fire Tribe, it's gonna stick. It's gonna stick. So, we got some good stuff to talk about today, but before we do any of that, we want to give a big shout out to at Mr. Blacksmith on YouTube.
Check him out.
Check him out. No, but if you listen to us regularly or you watch us, you know that at the end of every episode, we ask everyone to leave us comments, leave us feedback, because we want to hear what everyone thinks. And he did just that on one of our recent chip strategy episodes. So, because of those comments, I think we took some of it to heart. And we're gonna change a couple things, I think, about the video. First thing is we're gonna add our socials, because he made a good point to say, you know, what do people want to find you? They're having a tough time, right? So we're gonna add our socials to the full length of all of our videos. So I think we're gonna add our Spotify handle right down there under Phil, and we're gonna add our X handle right down here under Dave, and then we're gonna add our Instagram handle right down here under me. We do socials pretty often. We put things out like our team before and after the week. We'll do our buy, hold, sell picks. We'll ask questions. We'll comment. We'll put out, what's the word I'm looking for? Polls. We'll put polls out on
tweets.
X's. Are they called X's or tweets still?
I think they're just called posts,
Okay.
which is lame. Just call them tweets.
Yeah, that is pretty lame. I would agree with that. So that's the first thing we're going to do. You know, you'll probably see those visuals changing as time goes on, as we figure out what we like the most. But we're also going to add a new segment for the Wednesday episodes, which is this episode, where we're going to give a brief talk on how our team did over the weekend. That way, you know, we can add a little bit of validity to what we're talking about every week, so you can see, you know, the decisions we made and how they played out. And then Fridays, what?
Maybe mention that. Hopefully no one's hearing that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear this dog, everyone, but the neighbor over here's got a new dog, and he is loud. So if you can hear that, just try and tune it out.
Yeah,
it's no big deal.
Very disrespectful.
It's no big deal. Yeah, he doesn't know how big we are yet. So.
He's not part of the Fire Tribe yet.
Yeah, not yet, but when he is,
Anyway, go ahead.
And then Fridays, we're gonna add another segment, similar, gonna be our team, except it's gonna be our team going into the week, what decisions we're making, who we're going with. Some of that may change between Friday and Saturday, but it gives you a little bit of insight into what our thought process is. And hopefully, you know, that gives you guys and girls out there a little bit of a window into, you know, what we're doing with our own team. Right?
Heck yeah, Sean.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Last thing, and then I promise we'll talk FPL, because I know that's why everyone's here. I know. This guy just keeps talking.
Seriously.
Just won't shut up. No. But there's a lot of fantastic FPL content creators out there. The FPL Harrys of the world. The Let's Talk FPLs of the world. Those are some of the bigger ones. There's obviously plenty of others. And what they do really well is they can hop on a computer at a moment's notice and give you stats, give you transfer news, give you whatever they got to do, right? They're really good at doing that. But we have purposely chosen a while ago that's not who we want to be as content creators, right? Mm-hmm. We want to be more of I think we kind of called it like a podcast YouTube hybrid, we would say. A little bit of both, right? I think
also just call it a show.
We are definitely a show. We were trying to be a show. That is true. Whereas a lot of these content creators, you know, they're going to get up there, they're going to give you all the visuals, right? All the stats. That's not what we're here to do. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to be the guys that just drop a bunch of stats in front of you. We want to give you stats, you know. We want to give you our opinions. We want to have conversations. We want to make you laugh. And a lot of that's just going to come through kind of talking, right? Sometimes we'll be all about FPL. Sometimes we'll go on a tangent. You know, Phil, most likely. But yeah,
I was going to say content creators won't just go like this.
but I think that's the point. Is, you know, if you're here and you almost knocked the mic over again. Once a week, you got to knock it over. If you want the people who are going to give you just get in 15 minutes, get the stats, look at the screen, get the visuals, and get out. That's those guys and girls. They're amazing at it. Go check them out. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to try and build more of a community. Like a community where we meet you, you know, through comments, talk to you. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyone got words for me? What we're trying to
just
accomplish here?
Keep
No?
going.
I think they got it.
They
I think
got
they
it.
got
described
what
it pretty
I'm
well.
talking about. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm done. That's it. I'm done talking about
Good
that.
job, though.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. That being said, drop more comments and feedback. We love it. So, on to the show. Today, we're trying out a new segment. Gonna call it Who's Trending. Pretty self-explanatory. The idea is gonna be to discuss FPL players and clubs who we have noticed are trending up or down, and whether we believe that's a blip on the radar or that's gonna be the trend in the FPL season. Before that, though, guys, how are you doing?
Huh.
I know it took a long time to get there, but I got there.
I don't even know how I'm doing
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't either.
But
I forgot.
pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yeah, we're good.
I'm glad my recommendation of telling everyone that Arsenal's definitely going to score multiple goals on my team didn't come true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they only got one. So did we.
I love
But
that.
so I'll take that.
Good.
That
Yeah.
was an interesting wall the ref set up for Mr. Bruno.
But, I mean, that's the best ref
Bruno.
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys are
1.2
doing
feet.
good. I'm doing a little less good.
Well, we
Why-
didn't ask.
Why is
it's,
that?
It's okay though. I knew my squad was going to lose today. That's fine. I had a week buffer to prepare for this. I just hope that they figure out how to win in the big games because they still have yet to do that in 2 years. Win in the bigger matches. So all good though. Until
All good.
next year, they're in second by a lot of points in the Bundesliga. So all things considered, it's a pretty good year so far.
Sorry, Shane. That's a tough one.
It happens. It happens. All right, rundown for the show. Game week 2018 review, and then we're just going to go right into who's trending up, who's trending down. So, Phil, let's give the game week 28 review. We're going to put it right there.
There.
Yep, we're going to toss our team
Look
right there.
there.
Right
Oh, yeah,
there.
there it is.
Look
Don't
right
look
up
at me.
here.
Look there.
Yeah,
It
there.
is.
So, best part of the week, guys. Our point total. 69. But
69.
I think
Pretty
when
nice.
we
69.
when we look at our week, obviously Captain Salah paid off handsomely, and then some changes we made to our team. We did risk moving off of Isak because we're worried about his minutes and his performance coming off injuries, and Palmer just because he's been shitty. And we brought in Wood, Haaland, Kluivert, and honestly, given the transfers we brought in and kind of the players we moved away from, ending up with 69 points was pretty good because it's setting us up also for success come the blank game week and weeks to come with the doubles and other chips we want to use. So this was kind of a preparation week and it ended up being a pretty good one itself. So pretty excited about that.
Do you have
excited
the-
for
To the
blank.
average, we can put it on the screen, but
Average
I
was
forget it was in the
52.
50s.
52.
Yeah,
52.
so we smoked that average. I think
Yeah.
that's a good week for us, all things considered.
So take a look at our squad up there. Pretty happy with the performance overall and set ourselves up for success for weeks to come.
And yeah, just a word for everyone out there, just so you know, we're gonna throw the game week rank up there that we had. We're not throwing up the overall rank of our team because we started the team late,
Yeah.
as we've kind of developed this channel. So the overall rank really means nothing at this point. It's more of a week-to-week basis. Going in the next year, though, we'll definitely get that overall number up there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sean.
Of course, Phil, I got you, buddy. So let's just jump right in, man. New section. Let's
Let's
just get it
do it.
going. Trending up,
Who's
trending
trending?
down. Yeah, I mean, who wants to start? Dave.
It'll be Dave. Dave!
I heard you wanted to start.
Go!
Get it!
Well,
Who's trending?
I guess I
Just do it!
I guess I really
Seriously.
I guess I really do want to start. I don't know. My first team and player that I think is trending up has kind of been a team that's they're not really trending up anymore because they've only won once in their last 5. But I think for their players and FPL purposes, they're still trending up, and that's Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And the guy I want to talk about, I mean, you mentioned Justin Kluivert already. He continues his good run, so there's not a lot to say there. I think he's pretty clearly separated himself as the best option amongst their midfielders.
I would agree.
But I want to talk about Evan Nielsen since he's back from injury. Only his second game back. Played 70 minutes in that second game. He was pretty involved. He scored, but I think the important part of that is he displaced Dango Utara from the starting lineup.
He did.
And that says something to me because I think Dango played pretty well. And yet, Evan Nielsen's second game back, they went with him. He scored. He played the majority of the minutes. So I think whoever starts at center forward on this team is somebody that you want. Evan Nielsen is pretty low owned since he was hurt. He's a nice price. So I think if you're trying to save some money, move your team around. Maybe you want Erling Haaland back. I think Evan Nielsen is a nice way to differentiate yourself up front. So I think he's someone that's definitely trending up, and definitely, obviously Dango Utara is going to be trending down because looks like Evan Nielsen is going to start going forward.
Well, I don't think they bought him not to start him. So
yeah. Their schedule is still really good for some more time here too. So
you think he is trending up? Because I would absolutely agree. I think he's probably going to be especially with the lack of forward options right now.
Yeah,
Evan Nielsen, even his slight trend up is pretty significant when you look at the forward market right now. So,
Agreed.
I'm with you on that one, buddy. I'm with you on that.
Nice.
Well, it's time for one of you to just do it since I just did.
I can do it.
You haven't talked much today, son.
Yeah, you've been really
I
quiet.
know, people. I heard people want to hear my voice more on this channel.
Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, this one pains me a little bit, guys. Pains me a little bit. It does. It's
What are his or hers initials?
AR.
I know.
I know.
I know who it is because I can see his screen. But
Anthony Robinson.
Anthony Robinson, our American boy. It's a sad one for me. He had been a great defensive pick for a large portion of the season. We talked about him a couple times earlier on, but he's really fallen off as of late, unfortunately. Currently, he's the 19th defender in points at 91. That ties him with Cucurella.
that's hard to believe.
Who for most of the season, people considered Cucurella a pretty terrible defensive asset outside the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's been killing it.
Yeah, so he's now tied with Cucurella. I think he was certainly outperforming. Anthony Robinson was outperforming his expected numbers earlier in the year. I think that has now caught up to him. So, of all the FPL defenders, he has the largest gap between his XFPL and his actual points. 27-point gap on the season. The next closest is Saliba at 21. So it's not looking good. He has 0 points in his last 2 games. That was 2 yellow cards. Hasn't had a point return since game week 24. Unlike earlier in the year, you guys remember what the biggest reason was, at least for us, why we were like, we want to get Anthony Robinson? Like, what was his biggest draw early in the year?
A lot of crosses.
Yeah, the creative numbers, yeah.
Fair enough. That and the price is where I was going with it. He was cheap. He was one of the cheapest options. And you're right, he was doing big things. Well, now at the end of the season, you can get a lot of guys at his price that are significantly better. Munoz, $5 million. Milankovic, 4.8. Kirkes, 5.1. Gehi, 4.7. Murillo, 4.7. There's a couple more that are above him right now that are similar, if not lower, price tags. But what's interesting, he's still owned 25% by FPL managers. That's fourth.
That's nuts, especially looking at their games coming up.
He's behind Ina, Gabriel, and Trent.
Yeah.
He's I don't remember the exact number. I might actually have it here. He's ahead of that fifth guy by a decent percentage. He's ahead by a solid 2 percentage points, which, I mean, when you're talking millions of people, it's a pretty good number. So it is surprising to me that he's still up there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had him, and then I think with the blank game week, people have probably had to prioritize getting other people out of their squad instead of him. But yeah, he is one of those guys that's well up over 20% owned. That'll probably change.
I would assume so going into this week as the week goes on, but you never know. People, I just don't think, are noticing that he's not performing well. I think he's almost going unnoticed as an underperformer. Question now is it a trend? Is it a blip? For me, I think it's maybe not obviously, I shouldn't say that, but from my opinion, it's a trend. It's a downtrend. Fulham looks very average. They kind of have all season. That's why they're 10th in the table. When I say average, I don't mean bad. I mean they're literally average. They're 10th. They win a couple games, lose a couple games, and they draw a couple games. So they're a fairly average team, all things considered. Haven't had a shutout since game week 22. They only have 4 this season. So shutout points aren't really happening for Robinson either. Schedule's brutal, Phil. You mentioned it, until game week 34. And as a whole, Fulham has the 6th hardest schedule left in the EPL.
Yeah.
So it's not
See ya,
gonna,
buddy.
It's not going to get any easier.
Hasta luego.
Yeah, I don't think anything's changing for him. And something, I don't know if you guys watched the game this weekend, but Silva tried out a different formation the last 2 games, actually. Wolves and Brighton. He was playing a 3-4-2-1. Did you see that?
Yeah, I watched the Brighton game, yeah.
Yeah, and he pushed Robinson up a bit above the 3 in the back. So technically, because he was a midfielder out on the left.
He was a wing back, yeah.
Yeah, out on the left side. And, you know, we've watched Fulham games, but we've also watched a lot of U.S. men's national team. And I would assume you agree, I'm assuming you agree as well, that Robinson succeeds because he's athletic. He runs up and down the sideline. He can whip in crosses. He's a pretty physical defender. What he's not great at is having foot skills. He doesn't have a lot of foot skills. That's not his MO.
Yeah, he's not the most technical, but...
Right, so, you know, when I watch that game, you put him in that spot. He's now technically a midfielder. To me, it's a tough spot to put him in. He had a heavy touch, which he lost, and then he had to get that yellow card because he had to go foul. And I think if Silva's plan is to continue trying this, I think that's even worse for Robinson. I think that hurts him. Putting him in that spot instead of that just normal left back spot, I think hurts Robinson.
Yeah, I think he has the skill set to play there. It's just new for him. But I think the good news is, like Phil said, you don't really have to worry about that because their schedule is pretty bad. Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Chelsea. So
Yep. So
I think you'll see once people wild card after like game week 30 or so. I think you'll see his ownership go way down.
Yeah, I think he's trending down. I don't see him doing much for the rest of the season. So that's what I got there. Sad, but
That's a
true.
sad one.
That's a sad one.
He was your boy for a while.
I mean, I still love
loved
him.
him.
He's one of what? 3 starting U.S. players in the EPL. I don't know if Tyler Adams is a starter technically, but Chris Richards for Crystal Palace. That's about all they got. So when I see one of them struggling, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
It's sad, but I think you're right though.
Phil.
Yeah.
Philippe, did you have anyone
Philippe
you wanted to
Cocu!
talk about?
Do you know who he was?
Who?
Philippe Cocu.
I do
Absolutely
know who
not.
Koku was.
It's okay.
Yeah, again, my soccer...
Little Barca guy?
Pardonne-me.
Part of that Dutch.
Oh, come on. I was trying to
That's
give
quite-
you some
Perdóname.
Spanish. Perdóname. I said soccer. Football. My football knowledge, historically, weak.
It's okay. You're a handsome guy, so makes
I
up for it.
appreciate that.
I'm going to hop on the train of someone we've loved most of the season and is now kind of trending down, especially because of the fixtures, and that's Mr. Mbeumo / Mbeumo. And this is nothing against him. I just think that looking at his fixtures, and we've talked about Brentford's run. I mean, they have Bournemouth, Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Forest, United. Obviously, United can be hit or miss. But that's a tough stretch of games for Mbeumo. And then if you look at his recent form, I think in the last 8 games, he has 4 returns, 2 goals, 2 assists. So
Yeah.
I just feel like he's trending down. They haven't gotten the PKs as often, so he's not getting the goal return. And then when they're fixture, it's just going to be really tough for him to consistently produce. And when we're talking about Mbeumo, obviously he's in that $7 million price tag where if you moved off of him, you could find another guy to obviously replace him. And someone like Dave, I know you're going to talk about him, but Bruno might not be a bad option, but he is a guy that you can use to leverage funds and find another guy in form. So Mbeumo is someone that I personally think we should, as a team, consider moving off of, but I think he's one of those guys that should have a question mark if he should stay on your team for the next 6-7 weeks.
I agree. I think the difference between a guy like him and Robinson's just kind of playing a little more poorly, plus the schedule. I think Mbeumo's playing fine, but to your point, the schedule is going to rock him, and that may be the reason that's just a downtrend to basically end the season.
Yeah.
Less of his control in this one.
It's not his control. He's been pretty good. It's just based on fixtures, and he has that sexy price tag that makes you think, ooh, who could I bring in?
That's a sexy
price tag.
8.1 is a sexy number, I'll agree.
It's up to 8?
8.1, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 7.9.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 8.1, bring in Bruno, maybe bring in Foden if you're high on City.
Ismail Sarr looked good. Like, there's a lot of Clivert.
Well,
there's a lot of guys.
Do you know who you could bring in for Brian Mbeumo?
Who?
You could bring
Say
in, I'm gonna keep
You're gonna hurt everyone's ear.
I'm gonna
Good.
keep pounding the drum for Costco Foden, and
Now you
that's
can save a crap ton of money.
that's
Phil
Morgan Gibbs-White.
Morganzo
Phil
Gibbs-White.
And so Forest went through that spurt where they had a really tough schedule run. They're out of that now, and they pretty much have no schedule concerns for the rest of the year. They don't have any difficult games. I've mentioned Morgan Gibbs-White on a number of episodes. The second half of the season, so game week 15 on, he is third in points among midfielders. Obviously, Salah is one. He's only 1 point behind Mbeumo during that time. And he's outscored him over the last 6 or 7 weeks pretty easily. Some of you that are more data driven like myself will look at his expected numbers, and they're not quite what you'd want to see from somebody that's third in points among midfielders. So they're not elite expected numbers, but that's kind of the story with Nottingham Forest's good players as a whole. Like Chris Wood has been outperforming his underlying stats all year, so it's not super concerning for me. I think that's just kind of how Forest guys are going this year.
Yeah.
But he's a mainstay in their lineup since he had a run there where he wasn't starting, part of the way through the season since he came back. I think he's been super involved. Their attacks looked much better, so I just bought him on my own team. If anybody cares about that.
Nope. You're last.
Whatever.
No
But,
one gives a
He's one of my favorite mid-priced
question
midfielders.
for you. Oh,
No,
sorry.
go.
No.
No,
Seriously, let me go.
Pardon me.
Seriously, let me go.
Yeah.
So obviously Milenkovic, Wood, and even Sells are three pretty good assets for Forest in their run. Would you replace any of them with Costco Phil Foden?
What, you mean like if you have 3 Forest guys, would you drop any of those
literally
guys?
like we do. Where does he fit in there?
Yeah, like if you have like Sells, a defender, and Chris Wood, I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't be dying to make that switch.
Okay.
I wouldn't blame you. I think having 3 Forest guys is kind of the way to go with their schedule the rest of the way. They just shut out Man City.
Yep.
So they're definitely trending up both, how they're playing and their schedule.
All right, so we got
Nice, dude.
Costco Phil Foden, uptrend. I'm just going to throw one more name out there who I believe is also probably an uptrend for them, just came to my mind. Hudson-Odoi has looked pretty good too, I think, just in general, the midfield. Probably an uptrend for that team. A little cheaper, but yeah, no, I love that, Dave.
Yeah, if his minutes ever stabilize, then yeah.
That's agreed, which in his last 3 he had 90, 90, 86. So, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
It looks like they are stabilizing, but to your point, you just never know.
Yeah, he has started 3 in a row, you're right.
Yes, he has.
I like that.
Okay, so I think we have one more, and Dave, you and I think we're kind of on the same page
we have
on
the
this
same.
one.
We have the same team.
Should
Yeah.
I leave the room?
Yeah.
It sounded like you guys talked about it.
I'll be
without-
honest, I forgot you were here.
Oh! I'm going to throw you out the window, buddy.
Don't do that. The dog's out there barking. I don't want to deal with
Yeah,
him.
that's true.
All right, so trend. I think we're agreed this is a trend up, correct?
This team, oh yeah, for sure.
This team and this player specifically.
The team's pretty obvious.
Yeah, okay. So I'll start it off. You get in here whenever you want to say something. Just don't cut me off or
Can
I'll
you
be
start it
upset.
with, unlike the U.S. market, this player is going up.
No, I'm not trying to make any enemies, man.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, so the team, Brighton, the player I think we are going to talk about specifically, Joao Pedro. Both on fire right now. Joao Pedro in his last 4 game weeks, he's second in points with 30, only behind Watkins. Watkins played an extra game, so you could make the case he's number 1. Expected numbers, really good. They're actually the best of anyone in the top 10. And he's 8th on the season in points, right behind Raul.
Yeah, sure is.
Sure is.
He's on penalties.
He's on penalties. What's the team? The team has won
4 in a row.
4 in a row and 6 of their last 8. So obviously the team's in great form as well. But here's a question. So I mentioned Raul, right? I did that on purpose because I feel like all season these two have been very, very similar players. Streaky, not consistent. You never know which player you're going to get each week. So it's like the week that you play Joao Pedro, he gets a blank. The week that you don't play him, he gets 11 points. That seems to happen consistently. So I think the question is, we said trending up, but I think we should back up. Like, why do we think that's a trend up? Because a lot of people say, well, how can you say a trend up on a guy that has 2 good weeks and then does nothing for 4?
Good question.
What's the question? Was that the question?
That is that
Was the
It's
question.
not really a question. It's more of a can
We're
we back that up?
Is Joao Pedro trending up?
No, he is trending up, and I just want to ask Dave, can you back it up?
Yeah, because I think Brighton's players that you've considered using this year, which is like him, Welbeck, Mitoma, Verbruggen, like their usefulness in FPL has kind of coincided just with how Brighton is playing as a team. Like Brighton, they had that like cold run in the middle of the season, and Joao Pedro was pretty bad during that run. Like if you look at Danny Welbeck, if you look at Mitoma, it's the same story for those guys too. So Brighton's clearly playing well, and look, Joao Pedro is playing well. Mitoma is useful again.
Even Welbeck.
Yeah, Danny Welbeck's back. So yeah, but Joao Pedro, I mean, he's the last 3 weeks amongst forwards, he is number 1 in expected goals, expected assists, XFPL, and just points in general. He's created 3 big chances, so he's really involved creatively for them.
Let me riff off that point, because to your point, right, all his expected numbers are unreal right now. So I went back and looked. I wanted to see, okay, this is his best streak of the season, you could say. What's his second best streak? It was weeks 11 to 14. He also had 30 points. But in that stretch, his expected goals were 1.79, expected assists were 1.01, and the XFPL was 23. While to Dave's point, in this run, it's 2.82 expected goals, 1.11 expected assists, and 30 is his expected FPL. So where people may say, yeah, he has expected numbers all the time, this time it's really backing up what he's doing versus I think in that other run, a little lower.
He overperformed.
He was overperforming. I think he's almost on par right now with what we're seeing from him. Plus, however much you think this matters, Brighton, we said they're on a major streak right now, and that's obviously a huge reason why Joao Pedro is doing so well. Well, Brighton is 7th. They're only 3 points away from Chelsea in 4th place right now. They can basically smell that UCL spot, and I gotta think it's gonna propel them to keep the streak up. They get Newcastle, City, and Forest, who are all right above them. They get to play all those teams still, and you got to think they're just going to go all out, right? Knowing how close they are versus a team that may be out of a chance at a UCL spot. So,
they get City this week in game week 29,
yeah,
and then they don't play Newcastle and Liverpool till game week 35 and 37. So they have a nice run after they play City too.
Yeah. So I think to be clear, he's definitely going to have some blank game weeks, and it's definitely going to be frustrating. But I think once the season's over, if you look back at how he did in this last stretch, I think he's going to have done pretty well. So
I think if you're sitting on guys like Raul, like us, or Yohan Wissa, his schedule's pretty tough coming up. I think dropping either of them for Joao Pedro is like kind of a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. Playing devil's advocate, if he doesn't get a 99-minute PK, are we having this conversation?
Yes.
Maybe yes,
Fair
maybe
question.
no. But at the same time, I feel like that's the nature of FPL this year with guys getting PKs and being relevant. So
It is, yeah. I mean, it's definitely like we said a couple times this year, like Cole Palmer's last kick of the ball before he came off was a goal. Like if you know a guy's on PKs, sometimes that PK might happen in the 98th minute.
valid.
So
I completely agree. I do think the one thing that he does have to back him up, like we said in this run, is those expected numbers they're not fake, right? Some players, they're doing really well, and you're like, well, the expected numbers, like, what if they it's just a PK propelling them? I think there's more there, but yeah, I mean, fair point. If one goal could have changed his entire conversation.
I think we're still talking about it because his underlying numbers would be good. His 2 previous games were really good.
No, that's fair. Just throwing it out there to set you guys off.
So
that's fine.
So I think that's all we got, but we went Anthony Robinson. We think that's a trend down. We went Joao Pedro and Brighton. We think that's a trend up. We went Mbeumo, who we think is a trend down at the moment. Kind of in the middle. We think the schedule is what's going to drive him down.
We're waiting for the tariffs to hit and see.
We're waiting for
how that
the
affects him.
tariffs.
So he's like kind of just unstable. And who else?
Unstable.
And then we had
Evan Nielsen.
Who
we think's going up along with the whole Bournemouth team.
And Dango, sad to say.
down.
Probably.
Probably down.
Probably.
But, Evan Nielsen's a good player, so he sufficed while he was out. But yeah, that's the new segment.
That's who's trending with your fire tribe?
Who's trending? Yeah,
I mean, I think we're trending up personally.
I think we're trending
Yes,
up
sir.
too. I think we're trending up too.
But let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. Again, more feedback, more comments. We love it. Look, we spent 3 minutes just talking about at Mr. Blacksmith, who gave us a little bit of feedback, and we really appreciated it. So
Probably like 6 minutes, Sean. But who's counting?
yeah, good. Even better. Even better. Even better. All right. Well,
JK kidding.
as per usual, find us anywhere you find podcasts. Look us up on X. Look us up
Twitter.
on Instagram. Like, subscribe, because
It's free.
it
Doesn't
is
cost you anything.
absolutely free. Doesn't cost you a thing. And we'll be back here Friday looking at
That's right.
game week 29 player picks.
Yep.
All right.
The
We
blank.
shall.
The big blank.
Big blanky. All
The
right.
blank blue sea.
And with that,
That makes sense.
see ya.
See ya.
Bye.